Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Neo Rapid Productions talk show, NMP talk show. We're happy to have you this evening. And as usual, I'm not alone. I'm with my co-host, Figile Nkosi. Figile, welcome.
Thank you, Newo. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today again. It's a beautiful Monday. We are live on our Riverside FM online studio. We are live on our TikTok. Are we live on Telegram, Newo, today and Twitter?
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Then
We live
you can
on
join
Telegram
us.
or live on Twitter. Yeah, we just everywhere.
Yeah. We should be
Everywhere you can
everywhere.
be.
Things went to virtual now. So we must be everywhere,
Right?
So now tell us, Theo, what is
Definitely.
happening today? What did you cook for us?
I mean, today you don't even have to ask. I mean, you look at the screens, you just see we have fire
Yeah, yeah,
on the
yeah,
screen.
yeah, yeah. We are burning people
Welcome, Bali.
today. Let us welcome our guests today. You know what?
Bali
Me
Mavundla,
and
welcome to
Newo, we've got
our
this
show.
tendency of not introducing our guests properly. So today, what we will be talking about, Newo, first before we welcome our guest today, so that she
Yeah,
can introduce herself properly.
yeah.
Wow, if I knew this was an impromptu thing, I
Uh,
would have put it on time.
that's the beauty about our show. It's a freestyle. It's just
I
not
mean,
Bali Mavundla.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mbali Mavundla, the author of Kids on the Road, a junior driving manual, which is currently known as the K53 Junior. I'm a writer, I'm an artist, I'm a creator of beautiful literature. Let me say that. Yes, I've never introduced myself so nicely.
welcome, Bali. You have actually, I must say, and now I know
Yeah.
a little bit about you, like a little bit of who you are. So now
Yes.
tell us today. You mentioned something about being an author of a junior manual, K53. You said it's a junior K53.
Yes, K53
Tell
Junior.
us, what is that?
So it's a driving manual guide for children in grade R up to grade 7. So what I've done is I've taken the K53 and simplified it to a level that kids can understand. But it's not only for kids because if you're an Abbott school, you can also make reference to the book. You can start with the K53 Junior before you branch out into the actual K53. But also even learners, in high school as well, they can also make that reference because I found that the K53 original is quite an intricate book, right? And the language is not simplified at all. And so that poses a whole lot of challenges for people when they try to learn how to drive, the road rules and the road signs and all of that. Yeah, so that's what the book is
Wow.
about. It's a road safety guide for kids.
Wow, this
Mbali,
is
can you
very
believe?
interesting, but it's for junior. Are
Yeah.
the juniors
Can
driving?
you believe that I wanted to have your book when I was studying for my driver's license, my learner's license. I failed 3 times. I'm embarrassed to say I failed three
You don't
times. The
have
first
to.
time,
I
that's
mean,
when I
no,
got
it was
my
three
learner's
try.
license.
It was 3 attempts. You were attempting, and then the fourth one was the
Oh,
And
exact exam. So now you didn't fail.
hmm. Yeah, now you're making me feel better. So I attempted 3 times, and the fourth time I said, no, I have to get this right.
Mm,
And I got it right.
mm.
And
that time is a charm. I also failed. My then employer actually took me to school. I went to a driving school
mm,
and I took the classes because at first I got the K53, I got the apps. Most there's a couple of apps. And then I thought to myself, okay, I'm ready to go right now. When I got there, I realized, okay, this is not a knowledge testing station. This is a tricky thing. And if you really don't know and understand the road signs, it's easy for you to pick the wrong answer because ukremile, but it's not a cramming job. It's a matter of
Yeah.
understanding.
Actually,
I
very
don't know why
interesting.
it is so tricky. I don't know why it is so tricky. I mean, when you drive, it's not a trick question exercise. Driving on the road,
Yeah.
this is
Mhm,
serious. You need to test the knowledge on how to drive, how to read signs, how to react to situations.
mhm.
And I could not
Yeah.
understand why we were tricked so much when we were writing the exams. I mean, sometimes it can't be like that. But what inspired you really to write that book?
What inspired me is that so in 2018 I was working for a car service shop, and my employer at the time was like, or was busy with a community project. One of his giving back projects was helping high school learners obtain their licenses. I mean, he would fund the processes, he'd help them get their learners funded, help them get their licenses funded, but he didn't have the time. And the kids kept failing. So he was like, no, I need to appoint someone who's going to be responsible for this project. And right now, I think you are the best person. So that's when he took me to school first. That's when I got my learner's NAMI. Hey, mang fail and I was like, no, man, I understand what these kids are crying about. So then, yeah, then that's when I try to figure out how can we simplify this entire process.
Mm.
So having sat down with the kids and getting, firsthand from them what their struggles were, then I was able to put together like my own manual. And I had to test myself. I had to use the knowledge I'd already learned, because I didn't want to open the K53 itself and try, okay, I'll take this part and I'll take that part.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, from everything that I've learned, what can I remember? What were the simplest things to remember? And I thought, if these are the simplest things to remember for myself, these would be easier to relate. So I started with those points first, and then going deeper into my research. Then also, I mean, having done my learner's license and failed a couple of times, I picked up the most common questions that would come up. What were the most important things? And also, I got feedback from the kids. They were like, okay, this and that. So yeah, that's how it came
Wow,
about.
very interesting. So you're talking about what age? Because your book it's a manual for juniors, and what age
Yeah.
group are we talking about? Because we know that in South Africa, I think you have to be 16 for you to be able to write your learner's license exam.
17.
So 18,
18.
18. Oh, okay. All right. So you have to be
Really, it
18,
changed.
and 18 is not a junior.
Well, I did mine in 1997. So 17 was your learner's
And
license,
then,
and then 18 would be your driver's
oh,
license. So it has changed,
has it changed?
has it? Wow.
Because I know that internationally it's 16, but I didn't even take note in South Africa. I mean, I took mine because I got stuck quite a few times without having a driver, and the car is there, and I was like, "I man, I cannot be struggling like this. Let me go write the exam. I booked, I wrote, I passed." So I
Exactly.
don't know. I don't know your struggles that you experienced, but
But, to have learners, you must be
okay,
18.
all right. So you have
Yeah, and
But you still
mm,
drive alone at that age. Yeah, you must still have like a supervisor
okay.
next to you. But if you're over 21, you can definitely drive, even if you are just starting
Mm.
out. But yeah, but the kids, my book is for kids from grade R up to grade 7. So that's like what,
Yeah,
six,
yeah.
7 years old up until
Mhm.
14, just about. And I mean, the main thing with incorporating the kids at that young age, for the most part, it was a matter of, in South Africa, kids die more on the road than anywhere else. So that first part is solely dedicated just to the kids, to equip them, with the right knowledge and understanding of the roads they frequently travel. I mean, half of the kids I know get to school using a bus, some motor transport of some sort. So it's important for them to know and learn about the road signs, learn about the road rules. And also, if ever there's an emergency situation, kids must know what to do inside the car. They must not be stuck. And also, I mean, kids dying on the road, it's such a sad thing. But also, when you empower someone with knowledge, they know how to act better, you
exactly.
know. When ingane angeke ididise nje uma isibona umgwaqo you teach them, no, be calm, look on your left, look on your right. And then, because I think the scariest thing is that the information looks so large, but when you bring it closer, It's less of a scary monster. But also more importantly, kids get lost every day. And I thought if they're able to read and understand the road signs, at least they can get to the nearest police station and say, this is where I live. At home, this is the sign that you follow. This is how I get home as well. Yeah,
Wow,
understand?
that's
Yeah.
very interesting. You're
And
mentioning kids. First, before we even proceed to my next question, did you write the book when you had kids? Did you have any experience of kids getting lost and they couldn't find home, their way home? Did you lose anybody closer to you due to not knowing the road signs or what to look for? Reason I'm asking this is I'm always complaining. I'm from the Bundus. I'm from Mpumalanga, and we used to do the same thing when we were growing up, and I see it happening now that I'm an adult. So we wait for the car to approach before we can cross the road, and which is a very dangerous thing to do. So
Dangerous.
yes, so I want to know from you as to what led you to writing the book. Or did you lose anybody? What happened, if any, something
no,
happened?
not even. It's just that some of the kids, they might have been in matric, because like I said, in South Africa, you must be at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
18 years old to hold, a learner's or a driver's license. But there are kids who make it to matric and they're 16, right? And they're much younger. So then I started working backwards to say, okay, these guys are here, but then how do I help empower the ones who are coming before them, so that by the time they get to this level, they're done with this book and they're ready to tackle the K53 itself. So no, I don't have kids myself, but it's time.
We were not
Don't
making
rush.
you feeling
Okay.
broody right now. But
I'm
hey.
an aunt, I'm an aunt and I've gotten lost as well. I'm one of those people who get a whole lot of anxiety. When I started driving myself, it was hell. I remember even getting on the freeway. Like if I had to get on the freeway, I never used to eat because my stomach would just do its own thing. Because I would know it was, oh my God. So I just wanted those who come after me to have an easier experience, sort of thing.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's
So,
wonderful. You can go now.
so tell me, Mbali, um, I see your book. I mean, I've been following you around your posts and everything. You've been interviewed left, right, and center. My question is, wh- where are you seeing your book into the educational curriculum?
Yeah, so I was very intentional with the grade R up to grade 7. It's
Yeah.
because I really wanted to be accredited by the Department of Education. I want that tick, I want that stamp. So my long-term goal, in fact, my short-term goal is to see the book as part of the curriculum. The thing is, with private schools, because I've been interacting with a whole lot of schools, with private schools, they do have a section where they teach kids about their road safety awareness and all of that. And I think it falls under LO. They have a special period for it. But from my interaction with government schools and all of that, they don't have that kind of education.
Yeah.
You understand? It only happens when maybe GMPD has made a visit, in this one school. They'll make another visit next year and they can't visit all the schools. But all the while, kids are dying on the road.
Yeah.
So I would really like to see, like, the short-term plan is to see the book being accredited by government and made part of the curriculum, even if it's a section under life orientation. That would make me really happy, because at the end of the day, I want to see these learners leaving school with their matric certificate and their driver's license.
Wow.
You understand? But in the meantime, I will take the learner's license.
I mean, it's making
It's very
sense
good.
actually. What you are saying, you find that when you get a job offer, because job offers nowadays they don't wait for you to go to varsity. Probably you've acquired a skill when you were still in high school. You've got your matric certificate,
Correct.
and then now they're asking you, do you have a
Correct.
driver's license? Can you drive? So you find that it's
Yeah.
not happening because you don't have a driver's license. students. You mentioned private schools. I think they are the ones who are advantaged. I mean, when it comes to that,
Yes.
because they acquire the skills when they still at school, they get the knowledge when they
Yeah.
still at school,
Yes.
and they are
Yes.
privileged
Yes.
enough to
Yes.
be able to drive just before they get to matric. When they get to matric, some of them are driving
Correct.
themselves to school, of which it doesn't happen with our government schools.
Correct.
So
Correct.
you know,
Correct.
we like what you. I believe now when I'm saying we, I'm talking on behalf of Neo too, to say we like what you are doing.
Yes.
How far are you? How far are you with with introducing it to the schools? Because I know that it takes forever to get such crucial information
Yeah.
to to be
Yeah.
accepted in schools. Not that they don't
We
need
agree
it,
with that.
they
Yeah.
do, but I mean, there's a long process for it to be actually accepted.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you find difficult from your side?
Yeah. I'm honestly just enjoy getting in touch with them. It's
Yeah.
the most difficult thing ever. It's like we are here to help the people, but where are you? I'm not taking jabs. I'm not taking jabs at the department. I understand that our country is at a very critical state. So not everyone will be at my disposal just because I'm out here making a lot of
Yeah.
noise. But the book is 6 months old, just
Okay.
about. So I'm not in a rush, but I am determined on making as much noise as I can until it gets to the Department of Education. I think I did it the other way around. I started with the Johannesburg Metro Police Department. I started with GMPD, the traffic department, because I thought they had the power to give me that go ahead. But then they were like, no, you're supposed to be talking to the Department of Education. We love the concept. We love what we're doing. We'd love to collaborate. But the people who are supposed to give you the go ahead is the Department of Education. So I think I spent a lot of my time engaging them first instead of studying this way. But so now I made
You now
a whole
you're now joining
360.
the right path.
I'm taking to alignment now.
No, that's
Yeah, but
wonderful. So I
we need to
heard.
go in now.
Oh yes, you can go, Noah.
Yeah, you can go. You can go.
Oh, I wanted to say I heard that you are a poet, and I didn't get to see much of your poetry or poems, but looking at the things that you are mentioning that you are doing, you're an author, you studied journalism, if I'm not mistaken, and
Yeah.
being a
Yes,
poet,
correct.
and now you are catering. I mean, your book is looking at the young ones while you don't have the young ones. I mean, tell us more about that. Where do you come from being the poet to where you are today?
Yeah.
Okay, first, I'm only a poet on weekends.
It doesn't matter, but you are.
No, when I started my writing journey, so I started writing when I was 14 years old. I was in grade 8. And poems were the most simplest form of expression for me. I think I was just in love with the rhythm and all of that. But then it was just, it was, I love poems about boys and kisses and butterflies and all beautiful things. But that's when I started writing. My poetry actually grew. I remember I've opened a stage for Zahara when she was performing at the University of the Free State. I've also opened the stage for Brian Temba. I've also opened the stage for Afro Traction. So the poetry really did take me, to beautiful places now that I think about it. But in 2013, my mother passed away, and I was full on into my poetry then. And I think that just changed my entire life. Like, it just put a pause on a whole lot of things that I was busy with. And I stopped writing, because the writing became even more sad. And I felt like I wasn't doing myself any good, by spreading that into paper every day and reading it and writing it and reading it every day. So it was that I stopped completely. I stopped completely writing poems. But just to say, the creator in me has always had that love for literature and the need and the urge to want to express myself, whatever the platform may be. So when I moved from poetry, I then moved, when I stopped writing poems, then I started finding another way to express myself because the words had to get out one way or another. And then I started writing short stories. Um, but I didn't exactly branch out into the writing space as a career until 2014. So when my mom passed away, I left everything. I dropped out of school. I was busy with my geography degree. And I just found myself wandering about. And I was like, okay, I can't go back home now and tell my dad that I've dropped out. What must I do? So I just looked at my results and I was like, okay, I'm very good in languages. Let me apply at TUT. I remember coming here to Pretoria and a friend of mine was staying here and she advised me to apply at TUT. And I applied at TUT. I still wanted to pursue my geography degree, which is what I was doing.
Geography. Wow.
In the Free State. Yes, I was doing geography. I was majoring in geography and English. I thought I was going to be a teacher, but guess what?
You're still a teacher today.
And I take that from my mother. She was a primary school teacher. So I feel like maybe a lot of it comes from her. You know what I'm saying? So that's when they didn't take me for my geography because my mathematics was just horrible. So journalism was my second option because I understood because if I've got such beautiful languages like Ama results, Ama Gaga, they wouldn't let me go. That's how I got into journalism. It never was my first option. I don't even think when I put it down there it was an option, but God had other plans for me. So when I did my journalism in my final year, I started as a junior journalist at TUT. I graduated, and then after that, that's when I struggled to find a job, in that space that I studied for. Then I went to Limpopo to go look for a job. That's how I ended up, in the workshop learning about the K53, and I was like, let me write.
Wow.
Your journey is very interesting, and for now, I want to change gears a little bit.
Yeah.
I know the show is about the book, and you've done very well, writing this book, and with everything that has just come your way. I mean, listening to different interviews from different stations, recognized stations. I mean, when I listen, I was like, she's going very far. But
Oh, wow, no, thank you.
every one of us would also have something to fuel the passion,
Yeah.
and fueling the passion would sometimes be the background where you're coming from, growing up, and I mean, you were talking about studying geography, majoring in geography, with
Yeah.
geography and writing, geography, being a poet, and writing a book are like three main streets going different directions.
You're going to Cape
So
Town, you're
in my
going to
final year, when I
Mpumalanga
was
and
doing my
Limpopo, but you're
journalism,
driving one car.
And journalism. So
in my final year, when I was doing my journalism, I started a mobile gym. So, I mean, it doesn't matter
Oh,
what you put in front of me.
yeah,
If I want to do it, do it.
yeah. So the reason why I'm taking you on this 10 on the show now is we want to know who Mbali really is. Where
Yeah.
does Mbali come from? What made
Okay.
Mbali have this thick skin that she could juggle a lot of things and eventually win over them? I mean, at one point we worked together on some of the projects, you know.
I know.
Yeah, and now I'm thinking those projects, writing books, being studying geography, gym, they don't meet anywhere. So tell us.
I know, right? So for me, I think most of the hustles that I've gotten myself in were just a matter of survival. Even when I got to Limpopo, I didn't exactly find myself in this workshop. I was there volunteering at SAPS
Oh,
under the HR department.
I always said
Under
I
the
had a very interesting life story, but yours, I beats mine.
I know. So,
And prior to that, I had quit my job working in an internet cafe. And I was like, you know what? They're not paying me enough money here. I'm just going to go. So I had a friend in Limpopo who was like, yeah, come try this side. So I went there with my CVs. I was dropping off my CV in the malls. And I was like, hey, any job, because to be honest, I don't come from privilege. But I do believe that when my mother was around and she was well and alive, she gave me the best. She gave me the best parts of her, even when she didn't give it to herself. So for me, seeing her, try so hard to even give me like her last 100 rands, it said to me in the back of my head, she's not here, but I know what she sacrificed. You understand?
mm,
So when I found myself, we all know that jobs are scarce in
Yeah.
South Africa.
yeah.
I could have been anywhere with my journalism diploma. But I couldn't find the jobs that I really wanted, and I was still in training. I only had 1 year of internship, and something very horrible happened in my life then. So after my mom passed away, I remember not being able to go back home because I had a fallout with my dad. So my dad just decided, he doesn't want kids anymore. So he was just like, okay, y'all are not my kids anymore. So find your own way. And I was like, what? I was 22 at that time. And, it made me resent men, because I went back home crying to him and I was like, I don't know what I did. I'm sorry. But he was just, he was set in his ways. I can't speak on his behalf because I don't know what was going on, with him. I don't know what was going on in his life. I feel like losing my mother affected all of us, in a different way, that we all lost ourselves in the process. But for me, it was a matter of I don't have a home to go back to. I don't have a mom to call. I don't have a dad to cry to. I'm literally alone. I remember at one time I was homeless here in Joburg. I remember sleeping in the Gautrain station. You know what I'm saying? Like, Gautrain beqala before lockdown, Gautrain beqala, I think boma 4:30 to 5 ish, right? And I would just wait around just until that time. Mase sengizumsindo, sengiyavuka ke bathroom, ngivalelile lapha, in the toilet. Mase sengizumsindo sengiyavuka and I'm pretending like, I'm just here washing my face. I had the small suitcase with me that I would travel around with. Being a jumpy, I had my food in there, I had my clothes in there, but my clothes were every other place. I had clothes in Soweto, I had clothes in Pretoria. Because being homeless, it's so you can't go everywhere with your baggage. Yeah, so for me, it was really a matter of survival. It was like I need to survive, but also what kept me alive was just knowing everything that my mother gave in, to see us grow, to give us the best. And that really just that's what made me keep the faith. I was like, there's no way. During the time, when I was busy going through it, obviously I wasn't thinking, no, I'm going to be strong. I was absent, I wasn't even there. Half the time I didn't even realize, what I was going through. Limpopo is so far away. I think it's probably like 700 k's from KZN. And, being a Zulu girl in Limpopo, you don't speak the language. Nobody knows you. You are with people, they're not even your family, but they took me in. And there's a lot of families that have taken me in, here in the city. Like, I've been homeless 3 times, so you can just imagine, you can understand. So I've lived with a whole lot of families who I really appreciate. And for that, and that for me was like, I really have to make it out of the ghetto and I need to make it out alive.
Wow.
It's like you're relating Will Smith movie, Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
that's the title of your next book, Mbali.
Maybe. Stop giving
Maybe.
me
And don't forget to credit me there, ne?
I'm
you're giving
listening
me
to you,
ideas.
Mbali, reciting what you went through and looking at you
Mm.
today. What will you tell a young person? Because I feel you went through a lot of traumatic experiences, but you came out alive, and
Yeah.
look at you today. What will you tell a teenage girl who maybe facing a similar situation like yours, or
Yeah.
something different, but it's got some similarities? Because I mean,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
mentioned, unemployment rate is growing in South Africa. It's not like it grew and it
That's
stopped.
right.
It's still growing, and mostly the youth cannot get employment. What will you tell them if you had the opportunity?
One, stay at school. Stay at school. If there's anything I remember loudly in my voice, that rings very loudly in my voice, is that one message from my mother. She said to me, ufunde mntanam, ngoba ma ungenamali abantu bazokwenza slim.
Sure.
And that has never left me. That has never left me. When she passed on, I was at school, That's why when I dropped out, I felt so bad. I was like, this is not what she wanted. But then I also understand that she was also redirecting me to another path. I might have given up then, but I was still very much willing to be like, I want to be something in life, because my mother left me with this message, "Angfunda, angfunda, angfunde," And even after I couldn't find a job, with my journalism diploma, I was disgruntled. I was like, oh, why did I even go to school? This useless piece of paper and all of that. I honestly, I feel like school kept me safe. All the things that I know, I might have learned from the street because I grew up there. For 5 years straight. But the most important thing that she left me with was go to school. And for me, being in an environment like that where knowledge is shared, without limits, opened my mind to many paths. It opened my mind to many beautiful things. Zonke lezi zinto engiyicabangayo, it's not because they come so random to me. When you're in school, when you're in that environment, you are able to be groomed as well. You're allowing yourself to be groomed. You're allowing yourself to be taught. So I think education is the biggest tool anybody can use for themselves, especially young girls.
Now,
So would you say,
you can go
sorry,
now.
Figile, would you say, Mbali,
Yeah.
what happened to you, your upbringing? Obviously, it was not easy. It's never easy losing a loved one, especially a mother. And it's somebody that they'll be an anchor in your life.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did, how did it affect you mentally, emotionally? You spoke of
Yo.
all of it, but how did that, you know?
Can I tell you
Please
something?
do.
Yes, please.
My healing only started 2 years ago.
Wow.
Crazy enough. It's been what? It's been almost 9 years since my mother passed, but my healing started 2 years ago in 2020. I remember when the lockdown hit.
Mm.
When
When the
everybody is
lockdown
already
hit.
going
But lucky
insane, you starting your healing process. Yeah, a little bit.
lucky lucky enough at that time I had a job, so at least I wasn't outside on the
Okay.
streets. But I was forced to be alone and face the realities. Well, not really forced. I mean, I lived alone. So I was used to that. But I mean, in that situation, you couldn't go anywhere. It was just my first year back in Jersey. So I was out of touch with everyone who was here before, like when I was still at school. So, I mean, sitting at home looking at the same walls every day will definitely trigger something.
Yeah.
They're gonna go my psych ward if they want to drive you crazy. They isolate you.
Yeah.
So it didn't drive me crazy. I think it reversed the crazy. So for me, it reversed the crazy and brought me back to consciousness, where I was like, I've been on autopilot for years. I've been on autopilot ever since my mom died. Who am I? What am I doing here?
Mm.
What do I want? And then I started. I've never cried so much in my life, well, except for that year when she passed. But in 2020, I did a lot of crying. And I appreciate that time because without lockdown, I never would have done that healing for myself.
Mm.
So for me, it was a spiritual journey because I started realizing certain things about myself. When my mom passed away, I rejected God, you know, and I felt like there's no God. Like, what if there was? Like, why couldn't He save my mother? But I started looking at things in a different light because I received a whole lot of messages, and that's only because I was intentional about the healing. I could feel, Uguti, I don't know myself. I don't know where I'm going. I'm depressed. And I think with a youth, the most part, what drives us to depression is being misaligned with our journey and our purpose.
Yeah.
So I was very eager to find out, but why? Why did I go to school? Why did I meet this person? Why did all these horrible things happen to me? And then because I was so curious and I had nowhere else to turn, that's when Spirit revealed itself to me and said, listen, and also, excuse me, and also I started having dreams, about my mother. And I believe she was just telling me certain things, like, yeah, it's so crazy. I don't even know how to explain this. It's like you go to bed and you wake up with a dream. I kept a dream journal during those days because I don't know, because writing, man, I'm just a writer. I didn't know what the dreams meant at the time, but I had started writing those dreams from 2017. So having spent all this time by myself alone, I started going through some of the things that I had written, and the dreams started making sense. I then realized because the dreams are not just a flash of one thing that's going to happen, this morning when you go to bed. I realized that it was an entire story that was being relayed to me, that was being written out to me. I did say today, Wusi, for the book, especially the K53, when I left Limpopo, because I left in such a hurry, because while I was busy that side, I found an internship that was more aligned with what I studied, journalism. And that's when I met you, Neo.
Yeah.
I came back to Pretoria because I found that internship. That's how I left Limpopo. So when I got here, I was busy with my internship. I was working for an agency. I was working for an advertising agency. But on the side, I was freelancing. I was doing radio stuff, just went in because, me, I can't just do one thing.
Goes without saying. You must have at least a piece of every slice.
Because I really wanted to learn and I wasn't sure. I hadn't really figured out what it was that I was good at. So I was very willing to try out just about anything. So that's what helped me. When I got to Pretoria, I remember I was co-hosting a show on Saturdays, Women of Wisdom, but it was a Christian radio station. So just after my show, right, a pastor was coming in for his show. And he looked at, we were four ladies, and he looked at all four of us. And I could say that he gave us prophecies, right? Even though I didn't believe it at the time, it started making sense to me last year when I started writing this book. And he asked, what's your name? Do this, do that. What's your name? Do this, do that. And when he came to me, he was like, where's your license? Where's your driver's license? I was like, it's in Limpopo. He was like, go fetch it. Go fetch your driver's license, and never stop writing. I was like, this man, I thought he was going to give me something that's going to move me. He was going to tell me God has this plan for me. I must go there, Limpopo, like 300 kilometers again to fetch my license. Because I need to ask Gusitatis cards after you finish. And it only started making sense last year why that man told me to go fetch my license. I remember he told me this in July. And on my birthday that year, August, September, 3 months later, I had saved up enough money to go back to Limpopo and fetch my license. And I came back. And when this thought hit me last year, when I was writing this book, when I held the first copy in my hands, I just fell on my knees and I knew. When it's spirit, when it's God, when it's godly, when it's the gods, when it's from your people, it. There's no question about it. So it's things like that. It's actual things like that have happened in my life that have helped me keep the faith even during hard times.
That's wonderful.
All right. Now I'm changing gears now. I'm changing gears.
Yep.
No, we're talking about K53. I mean, it's all about driving. You have to change your gears.
Oh, yes. I
If
mean,
it's
yes.
automatic or manual
That's why
transmission,
we've got the
you have to change your
K53 for
gears.
juniors. Some of us are still juniors. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm on the fifth gear now. I'm almost at the sixth gear. Um,
Wow, you've got a powerful
when I
car
was growing up,
now.
well, it's a small car, man.
Right, with gear
Small
6.
jalopy.
All right.
So when I was growing up, there was this thing about getting a license from Limpopo, where it was famous of, you have to choose one driver for everyone to pass. So pass one, pass all. Do you know about that?
I know nothing of that sort.
I mean, you're writing a
Go,
K53 for
go for
junior.
the license way. Yeah, no, you've got memories.
Why did I change?
I mean,
That was
what you are
amazing.
saying now, it's not only in Limpopo. I think it's everywhere
Yeah.
where, it's so many
No, at
places.
that time
Mpumalanga
it
as
was
well,
notorious.
KZN as well,
Mm.
they notorious of pass one, pass all.
Wow.
And it's a truck. You go for a code
Ungasifaki
10, you
KZN,
come back with a code
ungasifaki.
8. So you said.
You know what? You've just touched a very important point, Neo, because I know people who have paid a crazy amount of money to obtain that driver's license.
Yeah.
And with this book, I'm hoping to close that gap because it's very hard for government to regulate that right now. But introducing a formal education system into the attainment of driver's licenses helps them in the future knowing ukuthi we've got a system that works. And we trust that every driver has learned, they have been tested through the schooling system to know how to drive, to better navigate the road so that things like that don't happen. Because I could sell you a license njengamanje if you wanted it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I will. But yeah,
You're
yeah,
touching something
I
very
totally understand.
interesting here. I watch a lot of certain movies. So you find that there's a situation at home. Like I said, that I got mine only because I will get stuck, but there's a car and there's no driver. People got tired of driving me around. My dad was driving me through
Yeah,
varsity, if I may say. So I was just that girl who's ignorant. But now, I'm thinking if you are teaching juniors to know the signs, hopefully you're teaching them how
yeah,
to control a car, in events of emergencies. You find that no
yes,
driver at
Mm.
home. But the kids, if they've got at least the know how, yes, it's not legal to do so,
yes,
but you know that somebody can
yes,
get help somewhere for you to survive.
yes,
Is it
yes.
something that is more or
Correct.
less the same?
No, definitely. I feel like with the older kids, obviously, kids are driving by the time they're 12 years old, right? And say you're a single parent, there's an emergency at home, what happens? It means you cannot get anywhere. Because it's already happening, I'm saying there's a
Of
safer
course.
way for it to happen. I cannot stop it from happening. It's already happening. But here's a solution. Here's how we can make it much more safer. Because the kid can still drive provided there's an adult supervision next, in that space. So it doesn't necessarily say, I feel like it would be understandable to say in a case of emergency, somebody's dying or in certain situations like that, because I mean life is very unpredictable. I mean,
Always.
let's be honest.
No.
And things happen every day. Things happen every day. And also it doesn't make sense to take kids to school to learn all theory, and then they come out of school, you expect them to start only the practicals. Then it doesn't make sense. What kind of schooling system is that? Equip them with the knowledge, equip them with the skills. practical
Mm-hmm.
skills, right? And I believe it's also another reason why I say bring back ama woodwork ekoleni. Or everything that we are learning should be practical, not only
Theory.
just theory.
I agree with you. You know, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of another situation where, as parents, we don't feel comfortable. We know that kids steal our cars. That's a given. I mean, if you've got kids, just know that they will steal your car one
Your
way or
kids.
the other. So I think you're providing a safer way of them doing so. I remember my sister at the
Yes.
age of 12 years stole my dad's car, drove just to check our post office, drove to a shopping complex and came
Wow.
back. She was 12 at that point, and she's a girl. We usually think it's boys who can do that, but we were all amazed at
Mm,
what she did, and unfortunately, there was no way my dad can teach her how to drive at that point. But I mean, with this, I feel like it is a safer way, because as much as you will tell them that it is illegal what you are doing, but at least you know that your car is gonna come back home, and I mean the safety of
yes.
others on the road. You know that maybe there won't be any accident when they come back, whether it's an incident.
All right. Here's a question. Here's a question. It's a twist to what you are saying there.
Mhm,
Um, we know that we have a legal limit, a legal age to start driving, right?
mhm.
Would you say, Mbali, your book can in some way encourage the schooling system to have
Yeah.
children of certain age to start studying theory on driving, principles of
Oh, sorry
driving,
about that, guys.
mhm,
Sorry.
no worries, principles of driving, and then when they get to a certain standard of their education, then they do practicals before they get to the
Yeah.
next.
Yeah. So let me tell you something very interesting. The thing is, government did try this, right? And I'm talking from something that I saw
Yeah.
here in Joburg. So here in Randburg, there's a place called a junior traffic center. Ne? Kunamarobots amancane and
Yeah.
tiny little filling stations. It's like a circuit, a nice little circuit. So yabona mos how the driving circuit is,
Yes.
but it's for babies. It's for small babies. So they did try it. They just didn't have the guide. They didn't have what I have.
Mm.
So they see the importance, but they just didn't have the know-how. They didn't have Mbali
Yes.
then.
Whole
The only thing that is missing there, I'm looking at it, it's Mbali. If you can get Mbali, all is sorted out. I mean, it's what we need. You're providing the theory, they're providing the practicals as well there. And I mean,
Mm.
in an
Yes.
event where you need that, it could happen.
Yeah, yeah. So I think they did want to start conscientizing them, because when I launched my book, that's when I found that place right here in Joburg, and
Mm.
I was thinking, let me just go launch the book there and have small cars there. But then I found out okay, so that place is not operational anymore.
Oh.
I'm not sure if it ever was, but it's a beautiful place, and it's spaces like that here in Jozi that I would like to revive, because then the kids get to have the real experience.
Yeah.
There is a squad here in Jozi. It's called Squadra. So Squadra is a club of race car drivers, but it's kids. It's 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and 16-year-olds. But these kids are competing at a professional level
Level.
with these cars. So it's not Uguti, these things, they're not around. It's just a matter of exposure, right?
Mhm.
And that's why the career section,
Yeah.
that's why the career section of my book is so important, because mina growing up, I thought ukuthi mawusebenza ngemoto you can only be a mechanic,
Yeah.
But going deep into the research, I found out ukuthi you can just specialize in tires. You can create tires, for any car. You can make your own, you can come up with your own brand and just be a tire specialist. You can just look at a car and say, okay, this car is 400 kgs, it needs this much air in the tire, and things like that, right? You can be an F1 race car driver, Elon Musk started his own car brand. Apparently cars of the future are self-driving. But I'm talking to the kids that I'm talking to now might have flying cars. You understand? So it's a matter of bringing the things that are so hard to so far out of reach to them, or that they think are so far out of reach, closer to them.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Actually,
So your
what you
book,
are saying, I'm
yeah,
thinking, I always hated the education concept. I'll clarify why. When we are growing up,
Yeah.
we open, we want to know things, and you go to preschool, you are given the opportunity to explore.
Yeah.
But when you go to school, you start your grade R, now they're trying to bring back your like they control your thinking. Now you have to do things a certain way. I hated my metric because I
yeah,
had to solve my maths question. I have to solve for X in a certain way.
for
If
X.
I don't want to, I don't want to solve for X that way. I want this way. I was told I was incorrect, and I go to varsity. Now they want me to have an open mind again, while my mind is closed for
Uh-huh.
12 years. So all I'm
Really?
saying is that I like what you are doing with your book, and I hope there's still more where that is coming from. That will
Are
actually
you talking about
equip
me?
the young ones to continue thinking out of the box. Sorry, no, I
Figila,
was
are you
cutting
talking
you.
about me? I'm asking, are you talking about me?
No, no, no.
I used
No,
to be
no, no. Your
frustrated.
story I won't share. I can't take that away from you.
I used to be, I used to be frustrated when, if you have to solve for X, they would say, assume X is this, and then find Y, right? But but when I looked at that problem, and I did my assumption, I say assume this is that, it was wrong, and I was like, why
That
do you
was
want
your
me
teacher.
to
I mean,
assume what
I
you
must be
think?
honest with you. I always fought with my teachers because
Yeah,
even today, I don't want the easiest way to get to where I want to go.
okay.
So yes, this is not
Let,
about me.
let,
It's
let's
about
let's
your book.
quickly wrap up. Yeah, let's quickly wrap up. Mbali, so how is your book categorized?
What do you mean in terms of?
From the onset, you might be speaking to a certain grade, and then it goes up to another, bracket. Is it
Oh yeah.
categorized, or it's just one category of a subject that covers all ages?
You know what? So the book is divided into two parts, right?
Yeah.
So I took very great consideration for the very young ones,
Mm.
thinking about them. I was like, oh, it must be like storytelling kind of
Mm,
kind of way of relaying the message to them. So in the beginning, the first part of the book is more about, let's take a road trip. What sign do you see on the road, right? Because you need to understand that you are talking to kids.
mm,
So it's things like that I've incorporated. I had so much fun writing this book, guys. You don't understand. I was unemployed last year when it happened, so I had all the time. I had all the thinking to do.
mm.
I did my first draft. In fact, the first draft I did it like on pieces of paper, random pieces of paper, and they were all over my floor. And I was like, okay, if I was a baby, if I was a kid, how would I want to learn this? But then, like I said, my mother dealt a lot with, primary school kids. She taught grade 1 and grade 2. So I just had a little bit of experience from that, from how she would teach, how I must actually be able to pose the book. And then there's the advanced level now. Then advanced level starts from grade 5 up to grade 7. Even though in my book itself, it's not saying advanced grade 5 to grade 7, but I mean it's just advanced level. And then you start making the language now, a bit more. I don't want to say tough, but a little bit more grown up, right? You start introducing them to careers. It's only kids in grade. That's when they really start thinking about what they would like to be when they grow up. When they're much younger, it's always just a dream. It's like, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be this. The more they grow up, then I start introducing, the body of the car, the gears now, because then so it's divided in that section, but ultimately it caters for kids in grade R up to grade 7. And when the department does accept it,
yes.
It'll be for primary school kids. If they want something else for high school learners, if they're saying, okay, no, from grade 8 up to grade 10, we feel like I'm happy to write another one.
Yes, I was about to ask you, do you see yourself writing? I know you were telling us that you've been an author since the age of 14, but do you see yourself writing another book or publishing another book after this one?
I actually have a lot of work that's unpublished. Just because it's not out there, it doesn't mean that I wrote it and I threw it away. For me, it was a matter of, like the story of my life story, right? I think this is the first time on this platform that I've shared, some of those things. And some of those things, I have them written down. You're welcome. I do have them written down, but I've always felt like it wasn't the right time for me to share certain things. But I did start writing a movie 2 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm hoping to collaborate with people in that space to help us get that into motion picture, to get it rolling, because I believe that it's a beautiful movie, So I do have projects like that I have started, like in terms of literature, that I haven't really given myself the time, because one, it's either I didn't have the resources or I didn't have the right collaborations at the time.
Yeah.
This book happened because my employer, who I worked for, he actually sponsored the first 100 copies. That's what allowed me to be able to launch my book and have copies for marketing purposes and all of that. So yeah, it might look like it's just me pioneering alone, but there are great people, there are great men, mostly great men, behind me, who have invested a whole lot of things into my dreams, into my well-being, and into my projects.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a
Thank you,
great
guys.
twist.
Wow, that was a beautiful discussion. We just had music for Figile. It just played now.
I mean, I'm looking at
sorry,
the time.
Figile.
I still want to continue the conversation, Mbali. Unfortunately, we are out of time.
Unfortunately, we just ran out of time. Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm famous, guys, it's okay.
You just remember us when you are. So with the last few seconds that we have, we have
Yeah.
2 minutes. In 30 seconds, Mbali, what can you say to the young ones out there, regarding this book and their life?
One, I feel like this book is just going to be a handy guide for every parent, knowing that, their kids are equipped, they can act better on the roads. They'll be much safer, but also it gives them that sense of when they're out there on the streets, when they actually start driving, they'll be more responsible drivers. And this is not just for parents, this is just for government as well. We'll decrease the number of road crashes on our roads. Imagine South Africa in 20 years' time. South Africa has one of the safest roads in the world. Like, imagine that happening. I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah.
And it starts now. It starts with projects like this. It starts with the K53 Junior. But also, I just want to say to young ones, to other creators, artists, like myself, people who are just dreamers, like, just never stop dreaming. Dream loudly, dream boldly, dream in color. Like, really, the possibilities are endless.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Mbali, for all those closing words. Figile, Any closing
I mean,
remarks?
I cannot take anything away from Mbali. The only thing that I can ask Mbali is now, before it gets to the schools, is there a place where we can purchase your book while we are waiting?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So if you are in Joburg, the book is available at 27 boxes at the Book Circle Capital. That's a bookshop. The book is 250. Unfortunately, I'm in Joburg, so you can only get it in store there. But we are available all over the country because I deliver via PEP. And courier charges apply.
Sure.
So we do have a Facebook page. It's called Kids on the Road. And also on our Facebook page, we have the link to our e-commerce store, our online store, where you are able to buy the book online and actually make a payment online. But also there are other people, who are very challenged when it comes to technology. We do have a WhatsApp button on our Facebook where you can just WhatsApp us directly, or also just WhatsApp us on 072. What is that number?
It's fine.
I've forgotten.
We'll make it available on our recording.
Yes.
Thank you. 0726754093. That's our WhatsApp number. Yeah, but I think it's easier to get onto Facebook. Everybody's there. And on our Facebook page, the link is there to the shop. The WhatsApp button is there as well.
All right.
Thank
You, everyone. Thank you, Mbali. Thank you, Figile. This was a beautiful show. And thanks to everyone who connected on Telegram, connected on
Thank
Twitter.
you, Noah and
Did we have
Claire.
an audience on TikTok as well?
Yes,
I think.
we are.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone that had connected. So be sure to catch up the recording of this show on YouTube. Our channel is Getting Formed 2. Getting Formed 2 as in TOO. This is where the recording will be uploaded at the later stage. But we want to thank you all for supporting this show and, everything that you do, promoting us on your social media networks as well. We thank you for that. So this is how we sign out. My name is Neo Murapedi, and then my co-host is Figilan Kosi, and we're signing out from the show. See you. Till then.
Thank you. Goodbye.
You need-